Hi, I'm Jim Ward of the Middle Country Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 49 in our History Bite series. Today we will discuss the history of the Times Square New Year's celebrations. Revelers began celebrating New Year's Eve in Times Square as early as 1904, but it was in 1907 that the New Year's Eve ball made its maiden descent from the flagpole atop One Times Square. 7 versions of the ball have been designed to signal the new year. From 1904 to 1907, the New York Times publisher Adolph S. Ochs had set the skies above Manhattan ablaze with a midnight fireworks show launched from the roof of his newspaper's 25-story headquarters. The pyrotechnics had been a hit with the 200,000 revelers who filled the junction around Broadway and 42nd Street, newly rechristened Times Square after its famous tenant. But the hot ash that rained down upon them concerned New York City officials so much that they banned the fireworks from ushering in 1908. Ochs wasn't one to be easily deterred. His flashy New Year's Eve bash had previously drawn crowds away from the traditional celebration in Lower Manhattan, where New Yorkers listened as the bells of Trinity Church rang in the new year. Yet without the fireworks show, Ochs would need a new spectacle to lure the masses to the hinterlands of Times Square for New Year's Eve. The actual notion of a ball dropping to signal the passage of time dates back long before New Year's Eve was ever celebrated in Times Square. The first time ball was installed atop England's Royal Observatory at Greenwich in 1833. This ball would drop at 1 o'clock every afternoon, allowing the captains of nearby ships to precisely set their chronometers, a vital navigational instrument. Around 150 public time balls are believed to have been installed around the world after the success at Greenwich, though few survive and still work. The tradition is carried on today in places like the United States Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C., where a time ball descends from a flagpole at noon each day, and of course, once a year in Times Square, where it marks the stroke of midnight, not for a few ship's captains, but for over 1 billion people watching worldwide. The New York Times publisher decided to put his own spin on the city's beloved time ball to usher in 1908. As people poured out of theaters, restaurants, and streetcars into Times Square on December 31st, 1907, they gazed up to the top of the Times Tower and saw a dazzling orb made of wood and iron, illuminated with 100 electric light bulbs. As the crowd counted down the final fleeting seconds of 1907, workers used ropes and pulleys to slowly lower the 700-pound ball down the flagpole crowning New York's second tallest building. Unlike the Western Union Building's time ball and others like it, which signified the time at the moment the ball began to move, the sphere on top of the Times Tower marked the time when it completed its descent. When the ball reached the bottom of the flagpole, the number 1908 lit up on the skyscraper's parapet to signal the arrival of the new year. On that occasion, and for almost a century thereafter, Times Square sign maker Artcraft Strauss was responsible for the ball lowering. The ball drop was greeted, according to the New York Times, with a wild human hullabaloo of noise. People blew horns and rang cowbells. Motorists in their new automobiles honked their horns. On the Hudson River, steamships whistled, an appropriate reaction considering the nautical roots of the time ball itself. In 1920, a 400-pound ball made entirely of wrought iron replaced the original. In 1942 and 1943, the glowing ball was temporarily retired due to the wartime dim-out of lights in New York City. The crowds who still gathered in Times Square in those years greeted the new year with a minute of silence, followed by chimes ringing out from sound trucks parked at the base of the Times Tower. In 1955, the iron ball was replaced with an aluminum ball weighing a mere 150 pounds. This aluminum ball remained unchanged until the 1980s, when red light bulbs and the addition of a green stem converted the ball into an apple for the I Love New York marketing campaign from 1981 until 1988. After 7 years, the traditional glowing white ball with white light bulbs and without the green stem returned to brightly light the sky above Times Square. In 1995, the ball was upgraded with aluminum skin, rhinestones, strobes, and computer controls. But the aluminum ball was lowered for the last time in 1998. In 2007, for the 100th anniversary of the Times Square ball drop tradition, Waterford Crystal and Philips Lighting crafted a spectacular new LED crystal ball. The incandescent and halogen bulbs of the past century were replaced by state-of-the-art Philips Luxian LED lighting technology that dramatically increased the brightness and color capabilities of the ball. The beauty and energy efficiency of the Centennial Ball inspired the building owners of One Times Square to build the permanent Big Ball, weighing nearly 6 tons and 12 feet in diameter. The 2,688 Waterford crystal triangles are illuminated by 32,256 Philips LEDs. This big Times Square New Year's Eve ball is now a year-round attraction, sparkling above Times Square in full public view January through December. Today, New Year's Eve in Times Square is a bona fide international phenomenon. Each year, hundreds of thousands of people still gather around the tower, now known as One Times Square, and wait for hours in the cold of a New York winter for the famous ball lowering ceremony. A worldwide audience estimated at over 1 billion people watch the ceremony each year, and the lowering of the ball has become the world's symbolic welcome to the new year. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, click like, and if you watched on YouTube, hit subscribe. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next time.